Okay, are we ready to go?
I don't see Forrest for some reason. I texted him. I don't know where he is. Where are
To go ahead and start.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Atu Walker, Diaba in the middle, and I'm a person.
Buenos días,
Go ahead.
buenos días, me llamo Rebeca Armendáriz, soy organizadora comunitaria con Clara, y Atu and I will be your bus drivers for today's event, along with an amazing team doing tech dynamics supporting us, and that is Bria, Forrest, and Adriana. If you'd like a different language, to hear this in a different language, for Tagalog, click on French in the globe. You'll see it says French, but that will take you to Tagalog interpretation. And if you'd like Vietnamese, click on where it says Portuguese.
All right. I would now like to go through the Zoom etiquette situation. I believe there's some slides. All right, cool. So Zoom etiquette is basically mute yourself. Be on time, turn on your video, come prepared, sit still, be respectful, find a quiet place, raise your hand to talk, and no eating. Okay, there we go. So don't be eating stuff. I think drinking's fine, as long as you're doing it responsibly. All right.
Is that the last slide, Ata?
No, but we're right at the next part, Rebecca.
Okay, thank you. So if I could say that we consider this conference an online, well, it's an online conference, but we still consider it a sacred space to increase our consciousness regarding labor issues that impact low-wage workers, to uplift worker stories, to learn what your rights are, to defend and protect, and to get engaged with racial justice organizing to end wage theft. We invite you to be present depending on your able-bodied privileges and space privileges. Sit down, get a notebook, write or draw some of the wisdom. Write down some of your own inspiring thoughts in the chat box. Feel free to use your headphones and take a walk or sit outdoors while you're listening to the whole program or part of the program. You can invite family to sit with you and watch, because worker justice is a family affair. It takes a whole barrio. So take in a breath and walk through this with us. Hold hands, put your hands on your panza, your belly, your chest. Remember that the framework for this event is that we encourage you to be engaged using the Zoom reaction handles, the chat box to share comments, ideas, shout outs. But we do ask that you keep it lively, uplifting, and in the spirit of community. Our team will be moderating the chat. So go ahead and ask questions throughout the event, or you can message them privately to Adriana Garcia so that they don't get lost in the chat. Thank you.
We're starting this event with a land acknowledgement. We humbly do this event as guests in the territory of the Ohlone Nation. Among the original caretakers who love and respect the land, the families of the children of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area continue as earth stewards to uplift this land, a beautiful legacy to follow in their steps. We stand in solidarity with them locally and stand in solidarity with Indigenous struggles internationally. We understand we do this work with the contradiction that we are in occupied territory after the genocide of Indigenous peoples and after Western-defined political borders furthered by gentrification. With conviction, we are determined to educate ourselves, to decolonize and deconstruct, to walk without harming self or our relatives, including the plant, animal, and water kingdoms. We commit to social justice work through the basic and powerful tenet of relationship building amongst us and for climate justice and for staying true to the way of life that involves to all my relations.
And to all my relations includes Black lives. We share our grief with Black families in their pain after losing their loved ones to police brutality and other state-sanctioned violence. We understand that we need to envision equity in a way that empowers our Black students and our Black colleagues. The Equity Champion Awards makes us hopeful and tells us that De Anza will do better to create equitable educational experiences with our campus community until Black Lives Matter inside and outside the classroom. And with that, we are holding this event on a very special month for the African American community. Today is Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, which commemorates the abolition or the ending of slavery in the United States, specifically in Texas, on June 19, 1865, 2 years after Emancipation Day.
In the spirit of Black and Brown unity and Pride Month, we also need to uplift Sylvia Ray Rivera, a Puerto Rican and Venezuelan trans woman, and Marsha P. Johnson, an African-American self-identified drag queen, as the key leaders in the well-known Stonewall riots, which has inspired Pride Month celebrations around the world. On June 28, 1969, these two trans mujeres led this uprising against state violence, and they were suffering as members of the LGBTQ plus community.
And now we move forward into a time when Black and Brown youth in the South Bay, particularly in San Jose, have led a 30-day uprising that continues right now in downtown San Jose by the leadership of SVD Bugs, Black Lives Matter, San Jose, Youth Hype, Overfelt Black Student Union, and many other racial justice organizations.
Thank you, Sister Rebecca. Today's event is called Justice for Workers 2.0 Online Conference. This online conference will address workers in the times of COVID-19. Our goal for today is to increase our consciousness regarding labor issues impacting low-wage workers, to uplift worker stories, know our rights for defense protection, and get engaged with racial justice organizing to end wage theft. We will have an update, an open house, worker stories, a lawyer's analysis, and we would like to close with a call of action, sharing resources, and making announcements of upcoming events.
The Wage Theft Coalition of Santa Clara County was founded in November of 2013. The coalition envisions a community where workers receive the wages they earn and are able to provide for their families and live with dignity. We are a diverse coalition of grassroots organizations, nonprofits, academic institutions, unions, individuals, and government agencies dedicated to economic justice in Silicon Valley.
The coalition gives life to that vision by actively working to end wage theft, defend workers' rights, and enforce wage theft judgments. We hope to accomplish this through policy advocacy, community organizing and outreach, direct action, education, leadership development, and resource coordination. We work with affected workers and their families, particularly low-wage workers who have been victims of the crime of wage theft.
So we could define wage theft if you don't know exactly what it means. It means, well, an example is like when you pay less than the minimum wage, when you don't pay people for overtime that they work, when you pay them with checks that bounce, when you pay them, but not for all the hours that they work, if you force them to work off the clock, when you don't pay them at all, and when you misclassify workers as exempt from overtime or as independent contractors so that you don't have to provide them with benefits or with the protections that other workers receive. Our next speaker will explain that a little bit further.
We will shift over to present data and update. For that, we have two speakers. First, we would like to introduce Ruth Silver-Taub, founder of the Wage Theft Coalition, supervising attorney of the OLSE's Advice Line, the supervising attorney for the Workers' Rights Clinic program at the Catherine and George Alexander Community Law Center at Santa Clara University School of Law, and an adjunct professor. She is legal services chair of the South Bay Coalition to End Human Trafficking, a delegate to the Santa Clara County's Human Trafficking Commission, a member of the Santa Clara County's Women's Equality Leadership Council 2020, and founder of the Santa Clara County Wage Theft Coalition.
And all around badass.
Let's give it up for, yes, in general, watch out, she has nunchucks. Let's give it up for Ruth Silver-Taub.
Thank you very much to all the attendees and to our amazing hosts, Rebecca and Atu. And I'd really like to give a shout out to Adriana Garcia, who's done an amazing job organizing this conference. The Nigerian author Chinua Achebe said, "There is that great proverb that until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." At the Wage Theft Coalition, the lions are telling their story of companies that put profits before people. Economic exploitation is part of a system that encompasses systemic abuse and institutionalized brutality and violence against people of color. As we contribute to the fight for workers' rights and to build worker power, we are clear that the origins of wage theft begin with exploitation of enslaved African people and their descendants. And this exploitation continues to this day. According to a 2017 report by the Economic Policy Institute, African Americans experienced wage theft at 3 times the rate of white workers. Latino workers also suffered disproportionately from wage theft. In a NELP survey conducted of 3 metropolitan areas with high Latino populations, the largest percentage of workers who suffer minimum wage and overtime law violations are Latinos. Even when workers win wage theft judgments, it is a hollow victory because it's difficult for them to collect. In 2012 and 13 in our county, workers were awarded $8.4 million by the Labor Commission, but collected only $2.8 million. The number currently in California is only 17% collections. During the pandemic, businesses are even more likely to cut costs by committing wage theft. Along with wage theft comes other forms of abuse. As the virus spreads, we've also seen scapegoating of Chinese Americans who have shared stories of coworkers abusing them or employers singling them out and asking them not to return to work, echoing similar discrimination against Muslims following September 11th and Japanese Americans following the Pearl Harbor attacks. Workers are being exposed to COVID-19 on the job, and essential workers, healthcare workers, Low-wage workers in grocery stores, care homes, and restaurants are not provided PPEs and are dying. The US has the worst record among developed countries when it comes to workers' rights, according to a 2020 International Trade Union Congress report. As you will see from the Wage Theft Coalition's video in the next segment, we engage in direct action and legislative advocacy to combat wage theft and ensure that judgments are paid. Our members also work with the OLSC's Fair Workplace Collaborative. But we are also aware that our work is intersectional and that workers who experience wage theft also experience housing and immigration problems, which you will also hear about today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. So now we'd like to introduce Forrest Carlos, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess up your name, Peterson, who brings both a blue collar and white collar perspective to his role as a scholar of infrastructure. For 7 years, he was a concrete laborer on large infrastructure projects. Following his years as a laborer, Forrest was a field engineer on a 3-mile concrete rail corridor. Learning from his experiences, he equitably shared information with field crews. However, he observed a fundamental limit in workforce communication. This became his topic as a doctoral researcher at Stanford. Gatekeeping of information allowed profiting to subvert the safety of the workforce, the environment, and the community. From these experiences, Forrest is convinced that workforce technical education, and with it, access to information and discretion, is an important domain to develop novel methods. Please share some figure snaps, unmute yourself to do that, and share some reactions using your Zoom handles to welcome Forrest.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my background. Sorry, not my background. I need to share the website real quick, or is somebody else going to share the website? I can put the website up on the main screen.
Okay, so
Here we go, and I'll post in chat a link to the website. And so this is Tableau, which is a open source, a free data site, so that you can put your own data there and make visualizations. And so, guys, you heard my name's Forrest. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through wage theft in Silicon Valley. And so I'm going to look at several different industries. And let's see if I have share. I do have share. Okay. Oops. There we go. Oh, okay, the site's coming up. And so we want the first one there that says Santa Clara County wage theft. Yes. And at the bottom right corner, there should be a view all that'll make this into a full screen. Yes, that's it. Perfect. Yes, excellent. Okay, so this graphic shows wage theft by zip code and industry. In this first view, you see the county divided into zip codes. On the right side is a panel with industries. You can select an industry to see what zip code has which wage theft. So first, let's select accommodation. And so you can see that Milpitas, Cupertino, and Sunnyvale are wage theft hotspots, so to speak. And note that within accommodation, that includes restaurants. There is a national level division of industry sectors. And so what we call restaurants is called accommodation, which includes hotels. So now let's select manufacturing. You can see that manufacturing is fairly consistent all across Silicon Valley. And note that manufacturing includes construction. And so this makes some sense that construction is fairly consistent across Silicon Valley. And you do see that in North San Jose, where a lot of the manufacturing plants are, it does show there's a little bit more construction or more wage theft. And so the third industry to take a look at on this graphic is healthcare. You can see with healthcare that Campbell and parts of San Jose have more wage theft in healthcare, and presumably that's because there's more healthcare facilities in those zip codes. So next, we're going to look at wage theft by industry sector. So in the top, there is the next box there by industry? Yes. So this is wage theft by industry sector. So you can see that healthcare and accommodation have the most wage theft by far. Professional, the third category that's in red, that includes tech workers. They are often also not paid properly, though we think of tech workers as being wealthy hipsters renting high-end apartments. That's not always the case. So after that is manufacturing, which includes construction. And so these are the top 4 wage theft industry sectors. So next we're going to look at zip code by industry. So now the graphic becomes more complicated, but you can see it's still the same: healthcare, accommodation, professional, manufacturing are the top 4 boxes. But now this is broken down by zip code. And so those same regions that you saw before. So you can see that healthcare, the 3 zip codes we saw, 95111, 95121, which is Evergreen, and 95008 Campbell, have the highest healthcare wage theft. In accommodation, you can see a similar breakdown, and the same with professional. So this is just a different view, and it helps to see quickly the size of wage theft in different communities, the prevalent industry in that community which has wage theft. And so now we'll look at the last industry by zip code. So lastly, let's look at wage theft by zip code in industry sector. This is a similar type of view. However, now it is each zip code to show which industries have the most theft in each community. So accommodation, you can see 95129 on the west side is almost all accommodation wage theft, but that's difficult to see in the other graphics. Healthcare, you can see, is all over. That's in green. And manufacturing, you can see pops up in 95131, which is on the north side where a lot of commercial warehouses are. So again, that makes logical sense. So thank you for your time. Please feel free to use this data dashboard. It is again, it's public.tableau.com and then /profile/forest.peterson. Thank you.
To give some snaps, some love, some applause.
So, podemos darle aplausos y mucho cariño a Forrest.
So the next will be a, let's see.
So, lo siguiente sería,
will be our open house.
Sería la casa.
If you have questions for these organizations, place them on the chat. Or
La casa abierta, si tiene alguna pregunta, puede ponerlo en el chat.
You could send them directly or privately to Adriana. We'll start now a video of the Wage Theft Coalition of Santa Clara County, which Ruth will be sharing with us.
No, you're sharing.
I'm sharing?
Yes.
I'm sharing. Ay, voy. Here I go.
All right.
Which will be shared.
Where's the music?
All right. Thank you so much for that. Powys, Tita Tess will share more about Powys' work here in the South Bay. Tita Tess.
Thank you, Ato. Hi, everyone. I am Tess Brillante, Vice Chair of the Filipino Association of Workers and Immigrants, or PAWIS. I am also the PAWIS Community Coordinator for the Fair Workplace Collaborative of Santa Clara County, OLSE. PAWIS in English translates to sweat, hence representing the hard work and sacrifices of Filipino migrant workers in this country. Our community has really come together in this time of COVID-19 pandemic. We have initiated 2 workers' town hall, conducted webinar on unemployment insurance, state disability insurance, paid family leave, and the CARES Act, and had even invited 2 prominent progressive politicians from Philippines to discuss the Philippine national situation in the time of COVID-19 through Zoom webinar. From the first successful PAWIS Town Hall, our organization has launched 3 major initiatives. 1, PPE Drive. 2, GoFundMe fundraising for distressed caregivers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And number 3, participation in the Silicon Valley Worker Stories Project. For our PPE drive, we received donations from Mr. Bonifacio.
Okay. Hi, Mijo. Good. I'm gonna leave, but I'm gonna pay you guys to just move it to the side.
The Stanford Medical Students, Day Workers Center of Mountain View, California Domestic Workers Coalition, and from individual PAWIS members who also donated and made facial cloth masks. PAWIS distributed more than 200 face shields and 95 masks, surgical masks, and cloth masks, and gloves to caregivers, eighth care facilities, and to some Kaiser nurses. For its GoFundMe fundraising, PAWIS reached its goal of $3,000 and has started distributing the relief fund to qualified beneficiaries, according to PAWIS guidelines. With regard to our participation in the Silicon Valley Workers Stories Project, 4 workers have already shared their stories of why they migrated to the US, the condition of their workplace, and the conditions back home that pushed them to migrate. They also shared the conditions in their workplace and how they are impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, their struggles, and their dreams for better life for their families. So here's our video presentation regarding our initiatives in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Tita Tess and PAWIS for their labor of love with workers.
And I think next up we have the Day Worker Center of Mountain View, Carlos.
Okay, will this be now the video of the Day Worker Center with Carlos?
Yes.
All right, excellent.
Thank you, Tita Tess and Pauis. Thank you, Carlos, and the Day Worker Center of Mountain View providing. Oh, you guys are next. I think Carlos is going. Carlos, are you there?
We'll proceed with the next speaker.
We hear you, Carlos.
I don't hear you. Okay, thank you, Carlos. I want to introduce you to Huy Tran, a member of VAR, the Vietnamese American Roundtable.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Huy Tran, and I'm going to share screen here so we can go through a quick presentation to introduce everybody to VAR, the Vietnamese American Roundtable. Oh, I believe that I said I cannot share or I cannot start a screen share while other participants are sharing. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, good morning, everybody. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and introduce everybody to the Vietnamese American Roundtable, an organization that I've been a part of for a very long time, but in terms of existing formally, was not created until 2017. Now, our vision is to create a strong and unified Vietnamese American community that works towards improving the quality of life for all. And we do that by mobilizing, advocating, and informing our community of the critical issues that impact their lives. We work towards this through building coalitions, strategic advocacy, and organizing meaningful community events for all. Who we are is that we exist through our board members, our staff, and our volunteers. We work together collaboratively to develop and support programs and projects that benefit the local community. Because our board members, staff, and volunteers actually span different generations, we are able to bring in inclusive perspectives into our events, and we work to bridge the generation gap between our elders and ourselves. In terms of our, we just want to do a brief overview of just kind of our core framework, excuse me. We focus on cultural learning, civic engagement, and community building. We try to work through a set of values that reflects who we are, so that we can deliver that to our community as well. Many of which is, focused on how we get work done, but it's also on what kind of community we want to build. In that sense, for us, values such as justice, equity, and compassion are very important. Our assets, again, are our people, our shared history, our community, and the reputation and the relationships that we have built through our work. And the strategies that we focus on is advocating through our generations, retaining our community knowledge, mentoring and sharing our experiences, and paying it forward and creating a sustainable organization and paying what we do forward to our community. Over the years that we've existed, we've been able to create a series of programs where we focus on doing community building. Of course, for 2020, a huge focus has been on the census, but some of our flagship programs have been our annual Black April commemoration, where we actually honor, where we recognize and appreciate the history of how we came to the United States. We have our annual summer youth program called Seeds, where we focus on civic engagement and cultural education. We are also a member of the Fair Worker Collaborative, where one of our biggest projects has been to try to help find volunteers for the staff line who can answer questions in Vietnamese. And of particular importance for many of the people in our community has been unemployment insurance. And so we've worked very diligently on that, working alongside Ruth, of course. And we've also done a lot to make sure that we educate our own community about the resources that are available to them as we all try to survive the COVID-19 pandemic. Among other core things, of course, these are our most important, these are the biggest programs that we have so far, and those is what we have been focused on. Briefly too, just want to kind of share some photos that we have of what we've done in the past. For us, culture is important, so which is why we make sure that we participate and create events that focus on maintaining our heritage. We also gladly showcase a lot of the traditional wear that we have. It's celebratory, and it's also good for formal events. And we also do a lot of work with with other organizations in the community. We do seek to build partnerships as we seek to build a coalition and understanding with the Vietnamese community and other communities that live here in Santa Clara County. So here's some brief information. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. We post regularly about the things, the programs that we provide and the programs that we are part of. And we would love to get to know everybody more. So please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Gracias, Wee. Thank you for the work you do and for what VAR does in the community and with workers. Much appreciated. Our next and last open house speaker is NDWA, the National Domestic Workers Alliance. Again, as they speak, if you have questions or like to make a comment, please send a message directly or privately to Adriana or Yaya Reese with the National Domestic Workers Alliance. Welcome, Yaya. We can't hear you.
I'm just doing it in Spanish.
Just kidding.
Okay, let me. Hello? Hello? Go ahead, Yaya.
I can hear you, but I think you have to switch the interpreter setting to be able to listen to you.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, I could hear you, Yaya.
I can hear you. Try it again. Got you. I hear you. Sounds good. The next speaker will be Felicia or Mais, I'm sorry.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So thank you for all being here. I'm Jennifer and I'll be introducing Mais. So Mais believes in creating a Latinx movement for social change that achieves the healthy well-being of Latinx and other marginalized communities from the barrios to the global South. We hope to develop leadership and use cultural advocacy in order to cultivate collective power in San Jose by the Latinx community, specifically among women, LGBTQI+, youth, immigrants, workers, and families. We recently held our first online conference, which was our Educate and Liberate Until the Children Are Free. This conference held a series of speakers where they spoke on the local, national, and international politics regarding immigration. The following day was a series of amazing workshops by amazing local organizations that involved testimonials and Know Your Rights workshops. I will now be passing the mic to Angelica, who will do a call to action.
Hello, my name is Ben. I'm a worker who has DACA, right? So I am privileged to have the work permit to work, and I'm glad that the DACA program can be reopened after the Supreme Court decision last week. But I also know that DACA is not permanent. I still have to worry about my future, possible deportation, and my family's well-being, especially in this time of the pandemic where my family members have lost their jobs. Now I have the responsibility to step up and support them. Anti-immigrant policies continue to be implemented, and I continue to advocate for more permanent solutions for everyone. And so this campaign that MAIS is working on is very dear to me. As one of the campaign coordinators of MAIS, we are advocating for changes within the detention centers and refugee camps, as well as against cruel family separation practices that we have seen. We are continuing to center our campaign called Until the Children Are Free, which started 2 years ago when children became the target of anti-immigrant policies and anti-immigrant sentiment. Our goal is to educate and advocate for the liberation of children and their families. It is unacceptable to have children or anyone in cages, and it needs to end now. We ask that you join our work as we develop a campaign amidst COVID-19 because the fight continues. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mais San Jose and register for our listserv to find out how you can get involved and how to make a difference. Thank you. And that link will be in the chat so you can sign up and we will get you involved with our work. Thank you for having us today.
Next, I'd like to introduce from Together We Will, also known as TWW, Felicia Ginsburg. I'm sorry, Felicia Gersberg.
Hi. Adriana, do you have my slide?
Yes, uploading now.
Thank you. So I'm Felicia Gershberg with Together We Will San Jose, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak with you today. Together We Will San Jose was formed in the wake of the November 2016 election. We organize in a private Facebook group that has about 3,000 members. People join our group because they want to take action to promote justice for people who have been marginalized and oppressed, including workers, immigrants, people of color, the LGBTQ community, and disabled people. We partner with a variety of organizations such as the Wage Theft Coalition and its members and amplify their calls to action, mobilizing our members to call and email their state legislators to support legislation for workers and others' rights, speak at city council meetings, show up to support rallies, marches, and strikes, donate to fundraisers, train to join the Rapid Response Network, do phone banking and other get out the vote efforts to fight voter suppression, and educate themselves and others in their networks. Anyone who is active on Facebook is very welcome to join our group, and I thank you again.
Thank you so much, Felicia. Up next, we're bringing Carlos back from the Day Worker Center. Carlos?
Sí.
Yeah.
Sure. Dale, dale.
I don't hear Carlos. We're not hearing Carlos.
No, no te oímos, Carlos. I can hear Carlos and Yaya.
Yeah, I can't hear him. It's okay.
Is he on the Spanish channel?
Okay. Yes. Let me try this again. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Carlos, very much. Hey, folks, go ahead and unmute yourself. Give all of our speakers some love throughout all of our technical mishaps. Newton said that things fall down, so don't worry. So we're all working together to make it all happen. Great. Share some reactions, use your Zoom handles. At this moment, I think we're going to still take our musical break. So please take some time to enjoy the music, take a bathroom break or get some water or a snack.
One more speaker.
Or stretch. Oh, one more speaker. Who's speaking?
Felicia.
Okay.
Felicia spoke.
No, it was Yaya, I think.
Oh, Yaya.
We never had Yaya.
Do you want to come back,
Yaya?
Yaya?
Okay.
Yaya, do you want to come back? Sorry about that. Okay, not sure where she's at. Okay, we'll take it to a musical break then.
Okay. We'll figure out things going on with Yaya. Thank everybody for your patience and grace. We'll take a musical break.
Okay.
Is your
We can hear you. We can hear you both. Let me see what's going on real quick. Are you in Spanish?
Maybe they have to switch back.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Adri.
Okay. Okay, now that I think the interpreters went back to their channel. And thank you, Angelica, for that. All right. Atu and Rebecca, showtime.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that musical break from La Negra Garciana. Now, Rebecca. Yes.
I'll go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
So I think I just got a little mixed up. We wanted to have to welcome now Amir Naeem from CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Hello, everybody.
Amir. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I guess I can share my screen for the PowerPoint then.
Yes, I'll stop sharing.
Okay, cool.
Let me out. Help me.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Amir Naeem. I'm an immigration attorney with CARE SFBA. That's the Council on American Islamic Relations, San Francisco Bay Area. We're one of the largest Muslim civil rights organizations in the US, fighting for the civil rights of Muslim Americans and all people. I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the many barriers that immigrants face to immigrating into the United States because of the COVID pandemic, and some of the barriers that the Trump administration has created for immigrants using the COVID pandemic as cover. There's no way I would be able to cover all of the barriers that the president has enacted. There's just too many of them, but I want to touch on some of the most egregious ones and talk a little bit about what they mean. So, of course, some of these barriers were likely going to be inevitable. For example, USCIS offices have been closed to in-person appointments since March, for the most part, and have only just started to reopen, which is understandable given the limits that experts have recommended on in-person interactions. But this situation exacerbates an already really big backlog in cases that prevents many people from legalizing their status and obtaining citizenship or green cards or asylum or other immigration benefits. The asylum backlog in particular was already several years long, and many people had been waiting more than 5 years just to get an interview where somebody would maybe decide whether or not they would be allowed to remain in the US or if they were going to be sent back to their home country. And that backlog was already 5 years long, before any offices shutting down, and so we don't really know how much longer or how much worse the backlog has gotten since then. Even now, offices have started to open up, but the interviews are still going at a much slower pace than they used to go. There are some other restrictions that have been put in place by the Trump administration that are less based on maybe valid public health concerns and just show the government's sort of animosity towards all kinds of immigrants. For example, one of the things that the government did in response to the COVID pandemic was issue an order prohibiting the detention of people seeking asylum at the southern border in what they call congregate settings, like detention centers. So that sounds like, okay, good, you're not going to be detaining people in jail when they come to apply for asylum. But what this actually means in practice is that people who are coming to ask for asylum at the southern border are just being sent back right away. They're not being given a chance to apply for asylum at all. And so either being deported to Mexico or being deported back to their home country, as the case may be. So, and this is like on top of the already like severely restrictive procedures that the Trump administration has created for asylum seekers. The Trump administration was already sending asylum seekers who applied at the southern border to remain in Mexico and wait for their hearings to take place in Mexico. So, but this move has basically shut down asylum completely for people applying at the southern border. Another example of something that the Trump administration has done to restrict immigration using the COVID pandemic as cover is the most recent immigrant visa ban. About 2 months ago, the Trump administration issued a ban which prevents immigrant visas from being issued. So that means people who are applying for their family members, whether it might, spouses, children, parents who are overseas, those people would not be able to have their visas issued. Recently, about a week or so ago, the Trump administration also expanded that to not just include immigrant visas, people who are coming to get green cards in the United States, but to also include people who are coming on different types of employment visas. So people who are coming on certain types of H visas, J visas, L visas. So people who are coming here to work in the United States on a temporary basis were also being prevented from entering the US. And this is, of course, on top of the other immigration bans that the Trump administration had already put in place before. So the Muslim ban, which banned people from several different countries, the Muslim and African ban, which banned people from several different countries, including Syria, Yemen, Libya, Iran, Somalia, Eritrea, Nigeria, Sudan, and other countries as well, from obtaining immigrant visas or from obtaining certain types of visas. And so these restrictions sort of add on to that and create like an even more complicated series of rules for people to navigate, in their efforts to be able to come to the United States, either to live with their family members or to work or to visit. Yeah. Uh-huh. Sure. Yeah, no problem. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I guess, okay, there we go. So I was talking about the immigrant visa ban, and so the Trump administration has basically shut down immigrant visas with very few exceptions for people from any country who are trying to enter the United States. That means that, for example, U.S. citizens who want to bring their parents to the United States to stay with them are not able to do so. Green card holders who want to bring their spouse or their children to come to the United States to stay with them are also not able to do so. And so I think it's useful for us to think a little bit about, or to look at the justification that the Trump administration gave, or the reason that the Trump administration gave for issuing this ban, right? The Trump administration says that they issued this ban in order to protect the jobs of U.S. workers from people coming from overseas, the president also specifically mentioned, high unemployment rates because of the COVID pandemic, and specifically mentioned, this high employment rates in African American communities and high unemployment rates in other communities of color in the United States. And so this is really a move just to protect those people. I think it's useful for us to think about, what the justification that the president gave was, not because it's, his real motivation or because it even makes sense, but because I think it helps us understand what it is that we are facing, what it is that we are up against as different communities in different situations. I think obviously, it goes without saying, this president has made it very clear that he does not, care in particular about, the lives of Black people or the lives of, other communities of color in the United States. And so, it's kind of absurd that he would say that he's taking this, extraordinary measure out of a concern for the economic well-being of communities of color in the United States. But I think what the president is trying to do is to try to send a very clear message, right? And to try to divide our different communities. So he's sending a message to the immigrant community, right? Saying like, hey, you guys are separated from your families, you're separated from your loved ones. And the reason for that is because, these other groups of people, right? US citizens, communities of color in the United States are in need of protection. And so the reason you're separated from your family is because of those people, right? And their needs. And then also, again, sending a message to communities of color in the United States saying that, hey, you guys have this, terrible economic situation. There's all this unemployment. And the reason for that is all these immigrants who are coming from other countries and they're taking your jobs. I think this is like a common thing that, people will say when they talk about immigration, that we need to restrict immigration in order to protect American jobs and all of that. But I think the fact that it's this president saying that makes it very clear that that is a hypocritical statement, right? That it's not based on genuine concern for anybody's well-being. There are communities of color in the United States and workers in the United States who are trying to use the immigration system to bring their own family members here to be with them, and that's what makes strong communities. And so, I hope I think I've been going on for a while, but I hope that the takeaway that we can take away from this is that we should work in solidarity with each other. We should understand that, despite the government's attempts to divide us and to point fingers at different groups of people, our struggle is really the same struggle. The president has used the same laws to enact the Muslim ban, to enact restrictions on asylum, to enact various other barriers that prevent people from immigrating to the United States. And so I think it's important for us to see these attacks as for what they are, which are attacks on all immigrants, whether they're highly educated professionals coming to do some kind of tech work on an H-1 visa, or if they're somebody fleeing from violence or persecution in their own country and asking for asylum. And so I hope that we can sort of understand each other's struggles a little bit better through this, and hopefully that will help us work in solidarity with each other.
Excellent.
That's fine.
Thank you for the presentation, Amir. And thank you for the reminder about how connected and how close attacks on immigrants and attacks on workers are and how they intersect. It reminds me of a chant that we shared last night. It says, "Los inmigrantes no somos criminales, somos trabajadores internacionales," right? And how it says workers, immigrants aren't criminals, we're international workers. And so your comments on how we are often divided and made to feel like it's a different struggle is not true. It ultimately is the same struggle of working people and immigrants, right? Thank you. So next we have a speaker who's going to share her story, Celerina Navarro, también conocida como Susana, also known as Susana. She's a RV house worker, and she'll be introduced by Clara.
Sí, igual. Entonces vamos a empezar. Sí. Okay. Sí, buenos días, ¿me escucha?
Buenos días, sí.
Soy yo. ¿Ya? Bueno,
Adelante. ¿Aló?
Sí, can you guys hear?
Sí.
Okay.
Se escucha muy bajito, creo.
Adelante.
Sí,
Sí, hable.
sí, buenos días. Mi nombre es Celerina. Antes de la pandemia, las cosas eran más tranquilo.
Espérese, hay alguien que tiene que ser mute, sea Carlos o sea usted. Pero, ¿verdad? Usted está hablando, entonces quizás en el aparato de Carlos apagamos el sonido mientras que usted habla. A ver, proceda otra vez.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Celerina Navarro.
Perfecto.
Antes de la pandemia, las cosas eran más tranquilas. ¿Claro? ¿O sigo? Más tranquilo, había más trabajo. Ahora somos menos trabajando. La pandemia afecta a todos. Nos quieren durar. No queremos durar mucho en las tiendas. No quiero gastar mucho porque no hay muchos recursos. Solamente uno trae lo que más necesita, las cosas más necesarias. Las cosas son diferentes porque no sabemos cuánto va a durar. La gente se mira triste porque ellos quieren trabajar, pero no hay trabajo. ¿Qué pasó?
Mute, un aparato que be muted.
No. Nosotros que vivimos en las trailas, nos faltan luz, refrigerador, estamos como la gente que vive en la calle antes de estar en el safe parking. Vivimos en la calle Crisanto en Mountain View. La preocupación de uno era mover las trailas cada momento para evitar los tickets de la policía. Ahora ya estamos 2 meses estando en el parking. ¿Más? Al principio cuando nos mudamos para el estacionamiento de la safe parking, no había acceso a agua por casi 3 semanas. La luz nos dieron una pantalla solar, pero es muy de carga para los teléfonos y nos dieron una lucecita, pero no está suficiente. Tenemos que irnos a dormir muy temprano. Pensar que cuando nos dijeron que íbamos a tener luz, agua, baños y basura, pensaba que iba a ser más eficaz, más mejor, pero eso no fue el caso. Ahora ya sí tenemos agua y otras necesidades. Aún así, con algunas demoras, el safe parking es poco mejor de estar en la calle. Así no tenemos que estar moviéndonos tanto o preocupándonos por los tickets, pero no se va a hacer, no sé si va a ser permanente. Es malo que no hay prioridad en la vivienda. Para la gente de bajos ingresos no posible para mucha gente pagar $4,000 de renta al mes. Por eso hay mucha gente viviendo ahora en las calles. Yo digo que por lo menos hay 600 o 700 familias que están desalojadas, sí, viviendo en las calles, en los carros y en las trailas, en las calles, durmiendo en las paradas de los buses. Ahorita como no hay trabajo y la renta está muy cara, no hay otra para la gente en salir a vivir en la calle. Tengo casi 17 años viviendo en Mountain View. Cuando yo llegué, encontrábamos apartamentos de 700, 900 a un apartamento de un cuarto y un apartamento de 2 cuartos por 1,200. Hace 4 o 5 años subió muchísimo la renta. Yo soy madre y padre, tengo que hacer 2 cosas. Tengo que trabajar y ver dónde voy a vivir. Es difícil a veces. Uno se desespera porque no hay salida aún. Le echa ganas por los hijos que tenemos, pensar adelante, porque uno se podría perderse en vicios. Por eso es importante mirar para adelante. Veo gente que está perdida por el vicio. Pienso que es no tener viviendas es una de las causas. No tienen dónde vivir. Es más fácil caerse en un vicio, tal vez, luego, no sé, pero cuando la gente ya está muy desesperada, es más fácil que hagan drogas para sentirse mejor. Creo que la manera que pueda ver mejoramiento es primero ubicar trabajando normal, y segundo que no hay tanta renta cara, que baje las rentas. Con el COVID-19, las instrucciones de viviendas se ha empeorado. La gente no trabaja, aunque puedan trabajar, pero va a tener que pagar mucha renta. Hay gente que está preocupada por la renta. Mucha gente se ha salido de sus apartamentos porque ya no puede con la renta. Con la situación de las personas que vivimos en los parking, para mí creo que los más importantes son los regaderas doble de vez, regaderas en los street parking, para que la gente se bañe y no se reduzca la posibilidad de contagio. Muchas gracias. Muy bien.
All right, give a big round of applause for Susanna and all the folks at the Mountain View Day Worker Center. Up next, we have Kenneth Tejeda, a housing lawyer from the Asian Law Alliance.
Hello, give me 1 second. Let me try to set up my PowerPoint presentation. Share screen. There, share. There we go. Show slideshow. Ah, there we go. All right. So my name is Kenneth Tejada. I'm a housing attorney at Asian Law Alliance. And so what I'm going to talk about today are the tenant protections that were in effect as a result of COVID-19. So the first thing you might have heard about is Gavin Newsom's executive order. It states that if you've been given papers for an eviction, I call the summons a complaint, because you haven't paid rent and you've lost income because of COVID-19, which is sadly a common situation, that you have 60 days to respond to this. Normally, you would only have 5 days. However, this isn't a moratorium. This isn't rent forgiveness. It just gives you extra time. And a lot of tenants organizations have criticized this for being kind of pathetic. But fortunately, if you live in Santa Clara County, we have the Santa Clara County rent moratorium. Keep on an update on this. What happens with this moratorium changes rapidly. The information I got on this moratorium 2 weeks ago is obsolete. And what I'm giving you now may not be true next week. So first thing, it expires on July 28th, 2020. If you've heard May 31st, that's an older version of the moratorium. If you heard August 31st, the moratorium is stated to end on either August 31st or when California lifts the state of emergency, whichever comes soonest. California is set to end the state of emergency on July 28th, but if California extends that, then this date will be extended up to August 31st. So what does this do? A landlord cannot evict you for either no fault or because you haven't paid rent. This assumes that you haven't paid rent because of a COVID-19 related reason for a loss of income. You have 1 year to pay back the entirety of the rent, but you must pay back half the rent by 6 months after the end of the moratorium. You also can't be charged late fees. So this isn't a rent forgiveness. It just gives you extra time to pay back whatever you were unable to pay because of COVID-19. The county ordinance also supersedes any city ordinance unless the city ordinance is stronger. So let's say you're not able to pay rent because of a COVID-19 related reason. The form that should be on your screen is available on the Santa Clara County website. The link is on the other side of the screen. Fill this form out and give this form to your landlord along with any documentation that shows a loss of income. There's examples on there, but they include termination letter from your employer. They include paycheck stubs from before the pandemic and afterwards that show a reduced paycheck. They can be bank statements showing what your income looked like before and what it looked like after. There are other means, but generally you have to prove that loss of income. Also, something I've been hearing a lot is landlords saying this is insufficient. Push it anyway. The county is what decides what's sufficient, not the landlord. And give it to them as soon as possible, but this can be given, the way it's been interpreted is this can be given any time, even after a summons and complaint has been served. So next up, it's not a rent forgiveness. It just means that you cannot be evicted now, but you're still eventually going to have to pay that back rent. Now, the landlord is going to try to get you to agree to a payment plan. Some landlords are already pushing for payment plans that are far stricter than what is required. Before that payment plan is even allowed, the landlord has to give a copy of this, saying of this notice that's on your screen. That's actually taken from the Santa Clara County website, and they have to give you this notice to inform you of what your rights are before you can agree to a payment plan. If you have questions about an agreement, contact a legal aid organization, contact my organization, contact Law Foundation or Bay Legal, or just an attorney that you know. Do not allow yourself to be railroaded into an unsustainable agreement, because a lot of the agreements that are being pushed are going to be unsustainable. And these are a few of the other rules that cities have. Originally, Santa Clara County said 120 days before they adopted the current plan. So Sunnyvale and San Jose had stricter requirements, but now both of those requirements aren't as strict as Santa Clara County's. And if you look at San Jose's, you can see that Santa Clara County was inspired by San Jose's. Palo Alto adds an extra detail that you cannot be charged interest. Mountain View requires that information must be kept confidential. Know that city rules are only allowed if they are more stringent than the county rules. And if they are less stringent, then the county rules what applies. All right, so next up, the courts have put in their own protections. So a court isn't even going to allow an eviction court proceeding unless the reason you're being evicted involves health and safety. They've also pushed back the trial date for 60 days. Originally, they want for an eviction court, you had 2 or 3 weeks. Now they're pushing it for 2 months. And this rule stays into effect 90 days after the state state of emergency has ended, which right now it's slated for July 28th. Be on the lookout. I have seen a lot of very bad faith attempts to claim something is a health and safety rule when it is not. I have seen one attempt to frame a tenant to claim a health and safety violation. So be on the lookout for that. And as for foreclosures, judicial foreclosures have been given a similar suspension. So if you own a house and you've been unable to make the payments, judicial foreclosures have been pushed back cannot be enforced until 90 days after the emergency has been lifted. But be aware this applies to a judicial foreclosure and that most foreclosures in California are non-judicial. Last up, we have the Federal CARES Act, signed into law May 27, 2020, lasting 100 days, 20 days, so it expires right now it's set to expire on July 25th. This is a federal act passed. It applies to any housing covered by the Violence Against Women Act. It applies to any subsidized housing or tax credit property, sometimes called light tech property. It applies if you have a Section 8 voucher, and it applies to property purchased with a federal-backed mortgage. And there's at least one interpretation that says every mortgage is federally backed. So if you qualify for any of these, then the landlord cannot file a new case for non-payment of rent. They cannot charge late fees, and they can't do any of this without a 30-day notice. So right now it's set to apply to saying until July. No word on whether it gets extended, but it is limited to something that saying that's backed with some kind of federal program. And that's it. Are we opening for questions, or we're opening for questions? I can answer questions.
At the end of the speakers, yes.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm gonna suspend Jerry. All right.
Thank you, Kenneth. Thanks again, Kenneth. Now, our next speaker who we will bring up again is a personal hero, but he's also with the Vietnamese American Roundtable, Huy Tran, and he'll be talking about COVID-19.
Wow, I really appreciated that introduction. Thank you. And thank you to also the other speakers who have gone so far. I mean, a lot of the information presented has been very important, and I'm honored to be among such amazing organizers who are focused on serving our communities. I am going to share screen now so I can go over my presentation as well. And today I'm going to be focused on supporting the unhoused. And that is if you yourself are suffering or experiencing homelessness, or if you know of folks who are and you're looking for ways to support them. Excuse me while I get this going. Okay. So, there we are. So, just a quick introduction. Yes, I am with the Vietnamese American Roundtable. The work that I do related to the unhoused is actually through a group that was created during the pandemic, and that is the Unhoused Response Group. Aside from that, I was also a former housing commissioner for the city of San Jose from 2017 to 2019. For my day job, though, I'm actually an attorney. I'm a partner with Justice at Work Law Group, where our focus is on social justice and workers' rights. Just a bit of information about the housing crisis that we're actually facing here in San Jose and why this issue has become incredibly important for us to address. Now, the first is that between 2017 and 2019, homelessness in San Jose jumped 42%. It is a massive increase of people who are not able to afford to live in their homes and end up on the streets. Part of the reason why homelessness has gone up so high is that housing costs are incredibly high. Right now, a family of four making up to $94,000 a year, that's almost six figures, is considered low income. In parts of in San Jose, even in places where it has been unexpected before, such as in the Berryessa neighborhoods, half of the people who rent in those neighborhoods spend more than 50% of their income on rent every month. And that was before COVID-19. So for folks who are experiencing homelessness, or for folks who want to support another who is experiencing homelessness, there are some programs that are available to help out. Now, I want you to understand, though, that the context in which all of these solutions exist right now is COVID-19. So the people who are going to get immediate support and help are going to be those who are either highly at risk for getting COVID-19 or are already showing some kind of symptoms. Right? So you can see there, right, that if you are showing symptoms of COVID-19, such as a dry cough, fever, or difficulty breathing, that puts you on a higher priority. And now, some of the underlying conditions that can make you more susceptible to COVID-19 are being over the age of 65, having a compromised immune system, or having underlying health issues such as respiratory disorders that can make the effect of COVID-19 much more dangerous for you. So if you are experiencing homelessness and you have any of these conditions, you want to make sure that you get help. If you have friends or family or people that you know who are experiencing these symptoms, make sure that they get help. So this is how you want to access the shelters. All right. Now, a lot of the services being provided are being done through Santa Clara County and the city of San Jose, but most of the coordination is coming out of Santa Clara County. So the number that you can contact to get support to access shelter or request shelter is on the screen here. That's 408-278-6420. It is a multilingual line able to communicate with people in Spanish, Tagalog, Vietnamese, and others. And because the office can sometimes be busy, you can leave a message and somebody from the county will call back. They will conduct an intake interview to assess your medical condition and try to find out what the best solution for you is. Now, I want to be clear that shelter is not necessarily guaranteed. The county does have access to many different resources to be able to help, such as hotel rooms. But right, their focus is still on people who show the most symptoms. And if you can't get shelter right away, it's possible that you can get some temporary shelter, some like a motel room for a few days. But you have to go through the process, and the office and the county will make that assessment directly. Now, there have been some folks who have tried to reach out and they don't get a hold of somebody right away. Again, it is important to remember that if you leave a message, you can get a call back. The other important thing that we have to address here is just COVID-19 itself. In fact, with the unhoused response group, of which Felicia from Together We Will has been instrumental in helping us with getting fundraising and buying supplies, is that we have made it one of our goals to go into the unhoused communities to educate folks about what COVID-19 is and how to stay safe. And one of the benchmarks on how we can deal with COVID-19 is how often we test. So it's important that our unhoused friends and community members also get access to testing as well. Now, the great thing about Santa Clara County is that it has free testing for all of our residents right now. That means everybody on this in event right now should take advantage of it because it is at no cost and it is a way to ensure that we are all healthy and that we are healthy not just for ourselves, but for the people around us. I've posted 2 links here for you to check out. The first is the first goes directly to the Santa Clara County Department of Public Health website. There, it'll show you where all the locations for testing are. Santa Clara County actually right now has sites where you don't even have to drive to it. You can walk up to it without an appointment to get tested. I myself on Thursday went to the SAP Center to get tested and also to get a free bobblehead from the San Jose Sharks. You can also make an appointment to get tested through Project Verily. It is a nationwide effort to coordinate testing, and Santa Clara County was one of the first to be able to make itself available to Project Verily for testing. If you go through Project Verily, you can make an appointment. It saves you time, makes it more convenient, and you can just show up and bring along your ID and get tested that way. Anytime you get tested, you should expect results to get to you within 2 to 5 business days. It's important to note, though, that if you are positive, the county or whoever's doing the testing will actually make every effort to let you know as soon as possible. So you could actually know much quicker than the 2 to 5 day time frame. For folks who don't have access to the internet, the phone number is also posted there so that you can make arrangements for free testing for the unhoused as well. That phone number is also run by the county. Now, at the end of the presentation, there are organizations that will help set up testing, and I will share that link in the comments or in the chat room. Now, there are other ways to provide support to our unhoused neighbors, though. For example, as I mentioned, URGE, the Unhoused Response Group, our focus has been on COVID-19 hygiene. So we actually have a big supply of hand sanitizer and face masks that we distribute. We also provide non-perishable foods because one of the struggles that unhoused people deal with right now is that the normal places that they go to get food, to access a bathroom, to get, to charge their phone, a lot of these places are closed. And so they have to wander around to find other locations to be able to get that kind of help. One of the things that we try to do to help with the food issue is that we provide non-perishable foods, canned goods, things that are easy to open that they can carry with them or keep with them. And they don't have to continue to wander throughout the city or to different places to find food, right? Because one of the risks of this pandemic is that the more we move around, the more we expose ourselves and others to any potential viral infections. For quick hot meals and or supplies, another organization called Sleeping Bags for the Homeless is incredibly responsive. if a person you know needs a blanket, needs some clothes, they will come out quickly to drop off whatever supplies they have in their inventory. And in terms of communicating and sharing this information, a group actually has been created on Facebook, and actually this group has been around for a while, that allows our homeless friends and neighbors to be able to share what is that they need and any issues that they may be dealing with, and whoever is available can come and try to help out where they can. If you look the group up on Facebook, it's called the San Jose Homeless Connect. They provide information, resources, and calls for help through that Facebook page as well. I mentioned before that I was going to provide a link to the organizations that provide resources to the unhoused. I'm just summarizing some of the locations here for the different cities in Santa Clara County. You can screenshot this or again follow the link for a downloadable PDF for addresses, phone numbers, and locations of the agencies here that can provide some support. I'll be available for any questions in the Q&A section. All right.
All right. Thank you, Wee. Great presentation. Please give him a round of applause. Now we have a speaker from PAWIS, People and Worker in Immigrant Struggles. PAWIS means sweat in Tagalog, and it stands for Please Help Me. Please help me welcome Lala and after her test.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Ranela Placides, better known as Lala. I am a caregiver and a member of PAWIS. I am a victim of labor trafficking and worked in Washington, D.C. in March 2010. I moved to California in April 2012. Here in California, my first job was of a live-in caregiver in a care home, taking care of 3 patients, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and my monthly income is only $1,200 a month. This year, before the shelter in place, I worked for 2 caregiving agencies. When the shelter in place was ordered because of COVID-19 pandemic, our employer just gave us 4 pieces of mask and told us to spray the mask with disinfectant and air dry it for reuse the next day. As regards to gloves, we are also told to just reuse them. I asked our employer if they would go give us PPEs other than the 4 masks, and they answered no. I did not insist on our need for masks and gloves for fear of being fired from work. It is hard being a caregiver in this time of COVID-19 because of lack of benefits for caregivers like me. No work, no pay. But we really need to continue working because of family expenses. But I have an underlying condition. I undergo dialysis 3 times a week. I was thinking that my safety is more important and I do not want to get infected with COVID-19. That's why, even if it is hard to lose income, I stopped working for 3 months. However, my family could not endure that I will not work because I am the primary breadwinner in the family. So I decided to go back to work this month. Though it is hard, but the wheel of life continues to turn. My only wish is that my body will continue to endure to be able to support and care for my family. I am also glad that my life story will help in our struggle for workers' rights. I think that this is my contribution to the struggles. Thank you and mabuhay to all of us.
Mabuhay!
Thank you so much, Lala. Um, Up next, we have Michael Boris of Rideshare Drivers United.
Rebecca, we have Tita Tess.
Oh, perdón. I don't see
Oh,
her
good.
name here.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
No, I'm done.
Okay, good. Go on with the show, Rebecca.
Then we will have Michael Boris, a Rideshare Drivers United worker who was misclassified by Uber and Lyft as a contractor.
Hi,
Hi, Michael.
thank you for hosting this event. I'm Michael Boris. I'm a member of Rideshare Drivers United. Accessing unemployment benefits for misclassified workers is extremely challenging. From my personal experience as a misclassified Uber and Lyft driver, applying for and receiving benefits from the EDD seemed near impossible. I'm sure many of you have attempted to contact the EDD and seen the news. I filled out the form just as any other person would requesting benefits. Granted, I did this in the middle of a pandemic with millions of other people also needing immediate assistance. Most W-2 jobs were paid by the EDD nearly immediately. Employers who classify their workers as employees are required to provide wages to the EDD, and this allows the EDD to immediately issue payments to these workers without delay. Misclassified workers like myself have to go through several steps in order to receive a benefit award. The first step is being referred to by a wage investigation by a representative. This means that someone has to physically or digitally look at my case. However, communicating with a claims representative during the COVID-19 pandemic was nearly impossible. The only claims workers that could initiate wage investigation work only 20 hours a week on the phone. The other phone line by the EDD could only be used to request a callback by one of these agents. None of this was known to me at the beginning of the process. It was all learned through communicating with others with the same issue and trial and error. Many hours of effort had to be put into resolving my claim, which is still pending, although a lot closer after 12 weeks. After my initial filing, I received an award letter of $0. This was from the EDD and signified that they had no wages on file, as Uber and Lyft did not report any wages when they classified me as an independent contractor. As a member of the Rideshare Drivers United, I followed our group guidelines to use my 1099 earnings history as my quarterly income. I subsequently communicated this information to the EDD by electronic message, fax, US postal mail. Attempting the phone lines was impossible to connect to an agent. Unfortunately, I don't know if any of those attempts triggered an agent starting my wage investigation. The EDD refers wage investigations to what they call a tax auditor. This auditor will ask you for some questions to determine if you were properly classified by your employer. After 8 weeks, my wage investigation was started by the help of the RDU, I believe. I received a call and was told they were going to start the wage investigation with the wages I had submitted to the electronic message center, which, by the way, EDD never responded directly to me inside their electronic messages. Their system was simply overwhelmed and incapable of communication on the scale necessary during a pandemic with massive unemployment. 10 days after the start of my wage investigation, I received a call from a tax auditor who was able to determine that I was a misclassified employee of Uber and Lyft. Another 9 days passed before my wages updated in my claim online, but it was another 2 days after that. So now we're around 12 weeks that I was able to certify for benefits. I can't say for sure that faxing and electronic messaging could have gotten my investigation started. I'm thankful the RDU was able to submit my documents. I still have to wait for my payment to list from pending to paid, and only then the EDD will mail my payment card. The process has been a mess and especially bad for misclassified workers who have been taken advantage of by large corporations for far too long, and then when they need assistance, they can't get it immediately. I do have one update. which is last night, my status did change after many more hours on the phone. So I have now hopefully gonna get a card in the mail in the next week or two. Thank you very much for hosting this.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Up next is a coalition's founder and coordinator and supervising attorney of the Law Center Workers' Rights Clinic and OLSE's Fair Workplace Collaboratives advice line, Ruth Silverton.
Hello. That story is typical of the stories we're hearing at the a workers' rights clinic and also on the OLSC advice line. I do want to mention that Betty Yun, who's the director of the Office of Labor Standards Enforcement, was here but has to leave, and I want to recognize her. I also want to say that the story is emblematic of what's happening to rideshare workers in the gig economy, Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash. And could you show my PowerPoint, please? I want to talk about AB5, and I want to really get everybody's attention focused on AB5. Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and other gig companies do not like AB5. And I posted a photo where some Uber drivers went to the house of the CEO and put up a big sign that said, a wage thief lives here. So Adriana, could you share my PowerPoint, please? So
yes, I'm working on it.
Thank you so much. So there was a Supreme Court case called Dynamex, and it said that in order to be a employee rather than an independent contractor, you had to follow and you had to satisfy three factors. One was the worker has to be free from control and direction of the hiring entity. The worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business, and the worker is engaged in an independent established trade or business. So when you look at it, Uber and Lyft and DoorDash appear not to satisfy the middle one. They're not performing work outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. Of course, Uber and Lyft and DoorDash are claiming that they are apps and that they are not ride-sharing companies or delivery services. And the courts have almost uniformly struck that down and rejected that argument. If you're an independent contractor, the employer does not have to pay minimum wage. Could you go to the next slides? And doesn't have to pay into unemployment or workers' comp. Independent contract, no, yeah, that's not the PowerPoint. It's the other PowerPoint. Independent contractors are not covered by SDI, paid family leave, workers' comp, unemployment, federal and state anti-discrimination laws, OSHA, or Social Security. And this is particularly troublesome now that we're seeing so many people unemployed. We do have the CARES Act, but that's just temporary. And after that, none of these workers will be covered. So because Uber, Lyft's and DoorDash's model is exploiting workers, they have spent, I have 90 million when we get this slide up, campaign to escape the crackdown on the gig economy. And they've now spent 100 million. And they call it the Protect App-Based Drivers and Services Campaign. So please look on, thank you. Please look on your ballot. Next slide. Yeah, on your ballot. And it's funded by Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash. It's qualified for the ballot. And they will ask voters to give ride-hailing companies an exemption to AB5. And during COVID, when these drivers are doing hazardous and risky work, we need people to vote no. So recently there was a change in workers' comp. Next slide. If any covered worker contracts COVID-19, they'll automatically be presumed to be work-related without the employee having to provide any further proof. A covered worker is a worker who is working and has a positive test or physician diagnosis within 14 days of the worker's last day of work. And this is really important because workers' comp will cover all of the medical treatment, and there'll also be temporary and permanent disability. Next slide. So OSHA has been a big disappointment to everybody, but they do have an illness and injury prevention program that every employer must enact. And we also have an aerosol transmissible disease protocol too that has to be enacted, but that's only to be enacted in healthcare facilities. So the next slide. So OSHA and the CDC, they only have voluntary guidelines, which is so frustrating because employers can choose to ignore them. And there is a shortage of protective equipment, as we know, and the CDC, in an unprecedented move, has relaxed its recommendations on how to protect healthcare workers and recommended that workers wear bandanas when there's no PPEs available. So according to NELP and other organizations, OSHA is failing. As I said, there's no enforceable code, next slide, COVID standards, and it's not doing any inspections. And so we are all calling for OSHA to enact a temporary and then a permanent COVID standard. So under the ADA, can an employer measure your body temperature? Yes. The ADA guidelines say that they can measure your temperature, and they can administer a temperature check before you enter the workplace. However, they cannot require antibody testing, and all testing, according to the ADA, all your medical information is confidential. So what we're asking for, next slide, is that California should adopt a temporary emergency standard to protect workers from infectious diseases and a permanent standard. Now, retaliation. If you complain about health and safety and are retaliated against, you can file a claim with the Retaliation Unit of the Labor Commission, and it's Labor Code 6310, and it's also 98.6 and 1102.5, which entitles you to $10,000 back pay and your job back. Please call us if you think you're retaliated against. You can also sue for wrongful termination, and you can get emotional distress damages. And also, if you complain on behalf of other workers or with other workers, it's also a violation of the protected concerted activity under Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. I want to mention quickly that undocumented workers cannot get unemployment. However, DACAs can, refugees with employment authorization documents can, asylees with employment authorization documents, T visas with employment authorization documents can, but undocumented workers, if they have an illness, they can get, and it's non-work related. If it's work related, it's workers' comp. They can get state disability, and they can also get paid family leave to care for a sick child, spouse, domestic partner, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, or parent-in-law. And I want to mention, lastly, the Family First Coronavirus Act. In San Jose, there's no exemptions. It applies to everybody. In other cities, if there's more than 500, there's an exemption. Employees, there's an exemption if it's under 50 and will harm the viability of a business or healthcare. They can request an exemption. It gives you 10 days if you're advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, if you have a diagnosis, if you're caring for someone with a diagnosis, or if a child's school is closed. So that's 10 days. There's also a part that gives you 10 weeks only if you're unable to work because the school is closed. So next slide, laws we are supporting. We want the statute of limitations for retaliation to be 1 year. We're sponsoring this along. We were the only sponsor. Now there's others. We are a co-sponsor of AB 3075. Both of these are carried by our champion, Clara. Businesses try to reincorporate so they get out from under wage theft judgments. These will require the employer to disclose whether or not they have unpaid wages. And if a business has the same workforce facility or services, then they have to pay the judgment. Our coalition member, National Domestic Workers, actually, this is the California Domestic Workers, supported by the National Domestic Workers, has SB 1257. Because of racist reasons, domestic workers and day laborers were excluded from OSHA. We want them to be part of OSHA. Also, a budget item that lots of you signed on for, safety net for all. It's an unemployment-like fund for undocumented workers. We also want to see health and safety for all. And so that's something that we're supporting. And research shows that from UC Merced that 1 in 4 pandemic job losses in California hit non-citizen immigrants. As immigrant workers are the backbone of the most impacted industry. The Disaster Relief Assistance Fund ended up being like putting a Band-Aid on an open chest wound. And our immigrant community deserves better. So I want to right at the end, the OLSC advice line, we're staffed by attorneys who speak English, Spanish, Tagalog, Visayan, Hindi, Punjabi, Mandarin, and Vietnamese. I'll put the number in the chat, 866-870-7725. And if you look at the current public health order, it says that workers who feel that their employer is violating the public health order should call our hotline. We have a very lengthy form that we fill out and we submit. So please call. Thank you. And Danny Spitzberg from the Tech Worker, a member of the Tech Worker Coalition, is going to speak briefly next.
Thank you, Ruth.
Hi, everyone. I know we're running late, and I'm going to cut my original thing down to squeeze it in. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully breeze through this. Thank you, everyone, for digging into all of your presentations, sharing, and having me. I'm Danny Spitzberg. I am a researcher who works with tech platforms. I'm a member of the Tech Workers Coalition. I'm in Oakland, California, which is traditional land of the Ohlone Chechnya people. And talk very briefly about some work with the folks like Michael, who's been a friend for some time, and with rideshare driving and wage claims and unemployment, and some alternatives. So I hope some of you remember last May, before the plague, on May 9th, there was a strike in front of the Uber headquarters organized by thousands of drivers. And back then, myself and a number of volunteers had been researching wage claims, what could be done better, faster than the 2 hours it takes to go to an office, like a legal clinic. We put together some information and talked with a number of drivers who said it was still too long. So we started working it out, working on the forums, brought together a number of other gig workers from a number of different platforms, a number of lawyers and organizers, figured out where people got stuck, where they're frustrated, why they can't expect things on time, and why they should maybe be a little more curious about other options. And we took this 2-hour effort down to 45 minutes with a spreadsheet tool so that folks can fill in the paper form with some easier figures. On February 5th of 2019, we filed a number of, of 2020, we filed about 180 wage claims in San Francisco, something around that, and many more in LA and San Diego, and kept rolling until we put together this small, simple app, which takes the process down to 10 minutes. It's very imperfect, but it gets the job done a little bit. And it's part of the effort that Rideshare Drivers United have put together. Over 4,000 drivers have filed this wage claim. It adds up to about $1 billion of wage claims in California. So some grassroots efforts led by the drivers who figured out what they were stuck with their wage claims, like Michael, you heard his story figuring out with unemployment, how to do better, has continued. Now, Rideshare Drivers United, I'm a loose volunteer, not a driver. I work in tech, but they have continued with unemployment, doing Zoom calls to help folks figure out what they can do to file, to get what they need faster. And this too adds up to a lot of money. Uber and Lyft alone should have paid in over $500 million to that fund. Just to give some credit, also these drivers are not just trying to file and help each other out, they're also handing out PPE, which Ruth mentioned, and doing what they can to help one another protect themselves. And last but not least, I'll just mention cooperative efforts have emerged as well alongside union efforts. Cooperatives, for those of you who don't know, are simply enterprises that are owned and controlled by their members, which are often the workers, sometimes others. There's a project right now to develop an act in California that would create some sort of labor council that would intermediate between these companies like Uber and Lyft and some of the workers. I'm not going to go into it much, but I'll mention a few links to close. You can check out driversunited.org for more of what Michael's involved with and a number of others. This Cooperative Economy Act and this loose network of several thousand tech workers is techworkerscoalition.org. A small bonus, we put together a number of materials. We have a small pamphlet on tech workers fighting white supremacy. Obviously, that's an issue for facial recognition all the way over to who gets hired. So that's a link to that as well. And thank you so much for having me. If you need anything, I'm obviously here to answer questions, and I'll throw some links in the chat. Thanks again.
Thank you, Danny. We wish you good luck in organizing the co-op for drivers. Okay, I think we're at that place where we're going to be doing questions and answers. Can everybody hear me?
Yes. If anybody has a question, if you would like to unmute yourself, you can ask a question from any of our panelists.
And can I just say, jump in and let everybody know that we truly appreciate all the inspiring stories. We're here to uplift workers and immigrant stories through the lens of racial justice. We're trying to end wage theft and all labor exploitation. And so like Adriana said, we want to open it up for questions. You can send them through private chat to Adriana. And if you have some announcements to make at the end of our event, please also let Adriana know through private chat, and we'll we'll open up that space for you. We have some questions. Adriana?
No, I believe only that I saw was Bria. Did you have a question?
Yes, Kenneth answered it for me in the chat.
Okay, sweet.
All right.
Any other?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
My name is Edward Esteban, the founder of the Alliance for Independent Workers, Drivers Unite National International Movement. And we were the ones who brought AB 5 into existence by pushing the state legislators with Jerry Hill, as well as Lorena Gonzalez. When other groups were talking about poor pay and poor treatment, we knew that the core issue was always misclassification of employment. Ruth Silver-Taub knows our work. And just want to make a statement that Matt Haney in San Francisco, Board of Supervisors member, is pushing for a reissue of the emergency ordinance to require PPE, personal protective equipment, to be provided by the hiring entities. So if we can get people to contact Matt Haney's office, Supervisor Matt Haney's office, and to encourage providing any support, any testimony that would be necessary to get this fully supported for all essential workers. We have the hashtag Essential Workers Unite movement as well. So we need to pull together because we need to have existential protections in the workplace for essential workers, which crosses all realms. So, and also too, we're pushing hard against Cal OSHA, which Ruth Silvertov had mentioned, they're not doing their job in enforcement. So we need that support out there. Everyone come out and make it happen.
Right, folks, is there any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I guess we can move forward. We would like to share our call to action as a coalition, which is oppose the ballot proposition by Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash to exclude drivers from AB5's protections. So vote no in November. Number 2, support AB 1947, longer retaliation statute of limitations, and AB 3075, protection for workers when companies with wage theft judgments try to reincorporate to avoid paying the judgments. So call Senator Beal. He's very accessible. You can talk to him. Excuse me, I'm sorry. At 408-286-8318 to support both bills.
Are you okay? I can take you from here.
Sorry, something went down the wrong pipe. Okay. To support AB 1947 and AB 3075. Also support SB 1257, which will include domestic workers and day laborers in OSHA. Follow the California Domestic Workers Alliance for next steps via their Facebook on California domestic workers. 3, sorry. Urge the governor to include in the ballot in the budget for an unemployment-like fund for undocumented workers. So call Governor Newsom at 916-445-2841. If you would like to have these calls of actions emailed to you, please email the waste wttfscc@gmail.com. All right, resources, Adriana.
Thank you for that, Atsu. We want you alive, sir.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share some of the resources out there at this time. One, there's the advisor worker or the worker advice line to call. There is also financial aid relief by the Sacred Heart Community Service Agency, and as well as the food distribution areas, which is being highlighted by the Silicon Valley Strong website. I will go ahead and put some of this information on the chat as well. Also, we are nearing June 30th. It is the deadline for undocumented people to access financial aid relief. And so there's both a Spanish line and English line or I should say there's Spanish or multiple services, I should say, multiple language services, but there's a line to call before June 30th. It is when the deadline for this financial aid relief to stop. So you can spread the word out. You can find this information too on our Facebook of Santa Clara County Wage Theft Coalition to further promote that information. So accessing our website, our Facebook, IG, and then the websites themselves, of course. And considering these resources, now we'd like to open it up for announcements. If there's anybody that would like to talk, I believe we have Andrea, but she had to leave. Betty also had to leave. Do you have a representative from the Filipino Bar Association of Northern California? Nobody from F Bank? Okay. Okay, so then we are happy that you all attended today's event. Rebecca had to leave at this moment, so I'm gonna close it up. We believe that if you're a victim of wage theft, that you're more vulnerable to losing out on housing, on health, on job opportunities, and go through other laws. Piled up and layered with the pandemic crisis, it makes low-wage workers, minimum wage workers, undocumented migrants, workers of colors more vulnerable. We hope that through today's event, you get plugged in with necessary organizations to get you and your family ahead economically, with a healthy well-being, and more importantly, in community, while together we're improving our quality of life. We try to do this in community. We believe that doing so through unity and stability, we raise these issues together as partners, as in our affinity groups, that we develop this leadership, uplift the stories, center them as our true leaders, the workers who will lead us in the struggle towards the freedoms, the civil rights, and the human rights that we all aspire to and deserve to have, no? With that said, then we thank Ruth Silvertop for this visionary work. Again, we thank the original indigenous people of this unceded Ohlone territory, particularly the Muwekma tribe. And I'll proceed to name the coalition partners for today's event and overall partners. We would like to thank the Catherine and George Alexander Community Law Center Workers' Rights Program, the Mountain View Day Laborer Center, and the Vietnamese American Roundtable, PAWIS, the Filipino Association of Worker and Immigrants, MAIS, Movimiento de Acción Inspirando Servicio, Fight for 15, who couldn't make it with us today, the National Domestic Workers Association, Together We Will, as well as Working Partnerships USA, the Center for Integrated Facility Engineering, Stanford University, ICANN, and WorkSafe, Local 270, MEPS, as well as AKI, Siren, the Santa Clara Office of Women's Policy, and again, the organizations of our family speakers today, including the Council on American Islamic Relations. Thank you so much. Much love to our interpreters, Nerj, Nam, Tui, Sean, Mirna, Carlos. You can unmute yourselves and give them some love, some snaps, a bravo. They did excellent for the last 2.5 hours, but it's been about 5 hours of labor to show up today in their best capacity. Thank you, Yaya, for setting that up as well and helping us in that technical part. Thank you, Forrest, Ruth, Mirna, Bria. Thank you so much for coming through today and helping us in all the ways as well. And thank you to the workers, the migrants, for inspiring us to show up for them, inspiring us and telling us how we need to show up as a community for them. May you all have a blessed and sacred day today. May you all gather in peace and be safe. Remember to protect each other, stay connected, because that's another form of staying healthy. Thank you so much, Santa Clara County Wage Theft Coalition. Have a great day.